This week's channeled message from Isla, the Mother of Creation, is talking to all of you who are lightworkers. And by that, my definition of a lightworker has always been those of us who are awakened and are ready to help, ready to help move us forward into this next and really exciting state of consciousness that we're moving into. In this message this week, Isla goes into detail about what it means to be a light worker right now. We are all being called into a type of service, but it might not always be the type that we think. So super interesting and helpful message. I'm super glad you're here to share it with me, to share it together as part of this community. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. And for those of you that are new, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from both the angelic realm. I channel Isla. She calls herself Isla. She is the mother of creation. She is the mother of all souls. And so what my format in this channeling is going to be, I'm going to share the original channeling, which I did yesterday. And then after that, we will break it down and talk through it. There's always, we just absorb a deeper level when we do that together. I wanted to let you know if you have been thinking about joining my Soul Convergence program, which you guys know I only offer twice a year. So it starts literally tomorrow. It starts on Saturday. So if you've been thinking of signing up and you haven't yet, now is the moment. It is my deepest healing program, the deepest healing program that I offer. It is where we move through the trauma that people experience, starting from the womb, which is where I had most of my trauma was from the womb, from the womb all the way up to like that age 7, that period where we're just highly impressionable, where we take things in without really having the ability to judge it or to think it through yet, and we just take it in as truth. So when someone says something that's negative towards you in that age range, or when you experience, some kind of hardship or scarcity in that age range, we take it in as a truth about ourselves, and then it becomes the trauma that we play out in the rest of our lives. So it'll just show up. And it's, those repeating patterns that we just can't seem to shake free from. Dating the same kind of person, or having the same sort of economic trauma, or having the same boss, or whatever it is. It's different for each of us. But that's the kind of stuff we address in this program. So, and it's stuff you have a hard time accessing on your own because we don't remember. How would I ever know like what happened to me in the womb? But with the help of the angels, that's how we get there. So this is a program that's guided through guided meditation with the angels, and much of it is done asynchronously. So there's recordings that you can work through on your own schedule. We do also have live sessions, and you also work one-on-one with one of our soul convergence guides who helps you through the program. So all right, if you're interested, it's at antucker.com/soul-convergence, and I hope to see you there. Tomorrow is where we kick off. All right, so take a breath. And now let's go ahead and listen in and just let this channeling as you receive it. If you feel yourself spacing out as she's speaking, don't worry. That happens sometimes as you're in sort of the flow of the energy. We will break it down afterwards, so you'll get more of the content there. So if you do feel yourself spacing out, totally just relax and just let it flow through you. All right, here we go. Blessings, I'm with you once again. You are wondering about how far you've come, about all that has happened, and where you are now. You would like to know in this offering, in this conversing that we are doing together, you would like to know where you are. And I would say to yourselves, as you are on the brink of many happenings, that you have come far, that this time period that you are in is not alone by itself. It is at the edge of a continuum. It is at the trailing finality of a long voyage which you have undertaken. Humanity as a species has been committed for more years than you know to encourage itself to grow, to move into a greater understanding of its own divinity. And you are now at the conclusion of a time period wherein humanity was disturbing itself from within itself, was finding itself through the process of struggle and strife, was moving against itself, continuing to expand beyond the boundaries of what was known and what was settled. It has been a trial. It has been disconcerting. There have been many epochs within the knowledge that you have about yourselves where powers were overturned, where people succumbed to great disaster, where there were many injurious happenings. And you are now in the process of coming to a space and connectivity where in the self that you are, as you have grown individually, yes, and as a collective, is ready to discard that way of life, is ready to come into a stable sensation of harmonious interplay with one another and within yourselves. And this is a great change. The tailing end that you are experiencing now of old ways, of old lies and truths, which must interrupt one another and be digested. This is a time wherein you shall find yourselves thrown against the rocks of understanding, as if you are being washed to the shore, desperate for your own security. There shall be times wherein you feel yourselves again on trial, but you are not. And have this in your understanding. You are not at the edge of something. You are not at the ending. You are the founders of a new beginning. You are the openers of doors. You are the consecrators of a higher state of consciousness. You are the ones who will lead, and others will follow. And this is true. It does not beget within them any sense of being lesser or being unknown to themselves at the deepest layer. It simply means that you must pass through the door one at a time, and someone must go first. And you yourselves have been in the offering. You are coming forward to be chosen, to be allowed. And it is not this. It is not a transgressive act for which you must be given permission. It is simply in the allowing that occurs within yourself, within your heart space. It is simply in the easing of your reluctance to be. And this is a choice that you are making individually. You are receiving in these times that are now, in these great and violent times that you are in, you are receiving essence upon essence, solar intrusions coming to the earth, energies that are transparent and yet vibrant, that resonate within your bodies, that are of assistance. They are moving you gradually, easing you into a higher relationship with this opportunity that is before you now. And you are accepting of these as you are feeling yourselves increasingly more open to one another and to yourselves. Do not follow the pathway of this violence that rises around yourselves, that you are observing, that you are seeing, that you are hearing about. Do not follow the path of becoming angry. Do not follow the path of becoming reluctant to engage in this earth, or finding yourself drawn into interrelationship with that which is happening. Be and observe and watch as things fall, for fall they will. See how the undertow pulls gently at their feet already. It cannot sustain itself when the light is so strong from within you. It cannot continue on as it has been, and the violence of this earthly realm must spend itself out. The interplay in this dynamic was and has been settled by those with whom it is occurring. Fear not for their justice. Fear not for the action that you must take, for there is none beyond that which moves you to feel more deeply your own truth, your divinity, the light you carry. This must be reflected in this time that you are in, out into the world and its disturbances, to feel most deeply the calm within. How do you achieve calm when the world feels like poison? How do you anchor yourself into the depth of your own fruition when what is happening in the world feels like an upset? And I would say to the self that your own inner harmony comes from a place that is not outside. It is internal. Shut down that dialogue that you are having with what requires you to be angry. Let yourself find peace. It lingers always just behind your eyes, within the self. It is always there. You can meet me there, for I am with you, and I will be always at your side as you require, as will angelic beings and all those that are part of your supportive path. I would say that in your processing of emotion and emotionality, find that which anchors you to the self and the self alone. Assume that all that passes externally, that brings you to your knees, is in fact drawing forward from within you that which must be seen. There are harms that were done to your very soul, to the self that you are, that must be loved into wholeness. And in this presenceful time that you are participating in, this is the work to be done. Be in no hurry for this anchoring and this processing. Feel not that you must pass quickly through this digestion of what is inside you. Be at peace with who you are, what you are, knowing that your timing is in the perfection of all things, that you are accessing the depth of your soul exactly as you are meant to. You have done nothing wrong, and you cannot be led astray when you are searching into the depths of these aches and these wounds. Let yourself be still and know that this is the greatest service that can be offered in this time that forms before you now. Know that you are coming into a heightened state of your own awareness. And as this ease with yourself develops, you will find increasingly your reluctance to be your truth fades, and the light that you are becomes increasingly visible. And this will be a joy for you, increasingly. There is no time like the present, where all things are disturbed, where the world is digesting more and more of its own agonies, to process your own, and to live your life in greater and greater peace because of it. You are always held in friendship with this world, even when it seems to lose itself. You are still within the wholeness of a humanity that will ascend, that will divine for itself a new way of living in harmony. Take hope. It is not far now, and you are a guide for the rest. I bless you and say thank you. Goodbye. Yeah. So awesome message from Isla. And I love that she's speaking to the challenges that are happening in the world right now, because there are many, and there's a lot of things that are coming out that are really, really disturbing and really scary, that make you wonder, like, how is the question that comes up is always like, how could that happen? And I think that feeling of how is at the core of a lot of our wounds, and I know for myself, when the most difficult things in my life happened to me, and for me, I should say, the question that I wrestled with was how. Like, how could this happen to me? All I was doing was trying to be nice. All I was doing was trying to be the best that I could do or help or whatever. And how could this happen? And I think that comes from that space where deep inside of us, we have an awareness, a feeling that knows we are the light, that knows we are this reflection of the divine, that we know we're good. Like, we feel the love inside of ourselves. And so then we wonder, how could this happen to us? And then you look out into the world and you see the violence and the stuff that's going on that seems impossible to believe. And then you always stuck with that word, how could it happen? And then people go into, how could God let this happen? How could people let this happen? How could anybody? And we wrestle with that. It's really a difficult problem, because how do we get through that feeling into the healing? And when we feel there's this unanswered question. And what I discovered on my own healing journey was was that question of like, how did it happen to me, is the disbelief is the challenge, and that I had to be my own witness. I had to go in to my own wound and tell myself, not only is it true, like not only did it happen, but it's worse than you're imagining. Like it's worse than you're remembering. And then to sit with myself in that truth. And I know this does not sound easy, because it's not. It's not easy to sit with yourself. And this is individual healing, but then we can take that individual healing and extract that out for the world and say what the world needs is for us to acknowledge, not to turn away and say that couldn't have happened, that didn't happen. The challenge we're having in digesting it, it's like taking off way too big of a bite and it gets stuck, right? And it's stuck in our throat and we're like, I just can't get it down. It's too big. It's too big. It's too gross. It's too awful. It's too heart, wrenching. And on so many levels, right? This is not just one thing. There is multiple places around the world right now where we can say this is true, and where we're having a hard time digesting it. And I think the answer is that we need the witness. We need someone to say to us, and that someone is always going to be self, to say it was true. And there's this part of us that we go through a dissonance. And the dissonance is where you're like, your reality is not matching your internal reality. You have an internal reality, which is that we are the light. And then you have this external reality, which is that terrible things are happening. And you're like, this just does not fit. I can't make the two go together. And so we struggle and we struggle and we struggle to process it. And what we need is for ourself, our inner awareness, to sit down with that part of us that feels this wound so deeply, and to look at ourselves in the eyes, to be with ourselves really in that stillness of that pain and say, yes, it happened. And why do I say that it was like even worse than we felt? Is because there's always going to be a part of us that's in denial. And we want to say there is no depth you can go to that is too deep to be loved. That's why, is we want to say that your worst moment, your worst feeling, the moment where you felt the most abandoned, the moment where you felt the most scared, is still worthy of being loved, right? It's still a part of you, and that part of you does not need to be left behind. That part of you is still worthy of love. And so I think the things in the world that are too difficult to process, we try to shut them out of our mind. It's too difficult. It's like that, just too big to swallow. And what we need to do for ourselves is take that moment and sit with ourselves and say, yes, it happened. And you know how incredibly heartbreaking it is. I know there are many people in our community who had terrible things happen to them and then had those things hidden, had it where they weren't allowed to bring those things to the surface, where other people denied it or denied it in one way or another. And I think we sometimes think that what we want is apologies. We think that we want someone to come and say they're sorry and say that, whatever happened was a mistake. And that's great, but it doesn't actually, like, receiving that does not always quiet the pain inside. The thing I have found that actually works is for when I see me. And that is what our inner self is waiting for. It is waiting for you to love you, right? For you to turn in and to sit with that pain, whatever it is, and to love it. And that is true for our inner wounds, and I think it's true for the world. Like, I think the world is going through a moment, big time, and there's more, right? There's more. We just don't know. Who knew that this was coming? And we don't know what's next. And the world is in pain. And I think what that pain needs is to be witnessed. It needs us from the inside, right? To be part of humanity. This is why we came, you guys, to be part of humanity, to be within humanity, within the collective. And from within that inner perspective of what we are, to love that wound and to love that pain. And that doesn't mean you have to like it, right? Loving it does not mean liking it. Loving it means giving it love. Right? Giving it love, accepting, saying, I understand this is part of us. I understand this happened. This is a scar that humanity bears, and we will love it. We will bring it in and we will love it. We will say, okay, you can be whole with this inside you. You can be divine with this inside you, right? It doesn't need to be pushed away or hidden or disguised, that it's still worthy of love, even though these terrible things happened to us, for us. So this, I think, whew, yeah. So I feel like this message is really important, because what is the role of a light worker now? Why did we come now? Why are we here now for this experience? And it is to be the witness, right? And to be the witness, we have to be in the state of mind. We have to be our own witness, and then we have to turn around and witness the world. We have to be so mindful of our energy and our awareness and where we're putting it. And so that's why I think this message is so incredibly important right now, and so powerful and hopeful, incredibly hopeful, because the angels kept telling us again and again and again, and Isla keeps telling us that what is the most important thing to us as we're moving through this huge shift of consciousness. Like, what is the most important thing? It is what's inside. It is our perspective, what we are feeling. Like, we are generating the new reality from inside of us. So the most important thing, like, what else is going on out there? Like, no fear. No fear, you guys, because we are generating a reality from within us. And trust what's inside you. Trust that you have the capacity to love all parts of yourself, to love every experience that ever happened to, through, and for you. And that all parts of you are worthy of that love, right? And then generate from there, right? And that's what's beautiful. So I love this message. And yeah, it's not easy. I know it's not easy to do it, but it's very possible. And you guys, this is the work of soul convergence. You guys know that. I've been talking about soul convergence. We start on tomorrow. We start on Saturday. So if you're feeling called, if you want help moving through, like if you're feeling triggered by what's going on right now in the world, if you're upset, it's because it's resonating some part of yourself. There's a wound inside of you that is responding, is being agitated by, it's being brought forward by what's going on in the world. And soul convergence can help you with that. So if you would like that help, come and join us. You guys know that it's anyways, I hope you do. It is my absolute like most, I think, deeply impactful thing that we do. Yeah. So, okay. So now let's go through the message and talk through and just go a little deeper on some of these paragraphs here. In the first one, she says, "Blessings, I'm with you once again. You are wondering about how far you've come, about all that has happened and where you are now. You would like to know in this offering, in this conversing that we are doing together, you would like to know where you are." So this is like our litmus, and like our check-in of like, where are we in this whole process of moving through the shift of consciousness? And she says, "And I would say to yourselves, as you are on the brink of many happenings, that you have come far, that this time period that you are in is not alone by itself. It is at the edge of a continuum." And so the continuum is a gradual change, like a gradient. So like you guys know, like ombre, like people who have like ombre hair or ombre dye, is like where it goes very subtly from like dark to light, very, very subtle change. And so it's this idea that we are at the edge of a continuum, that we've been going through a process of gradual building change, so gradual that we don't even see it happening, right? And then boom, here we are. And it's like that idea about, think about even like 20 years ago, meditation would have been like weird. And now it's so common. If you mentioned energy, if you talk to someone, "Oh, you have great, I love your energy," that would not have been something you would have said 20 years ago. People would have been like, "You're weird. You're airy fairy," or whatever. Now everybody knows what that is, at least in the US, I think in many other countries too. And so, yeah, so that's a gradient change where we just now accept it. It just became part of the common culture over time. And then she says, "It is at the trailing finality of a long voyage which you have undertaken. Humanity as a species has been committed for more years than you know to encourage itself to grow, to move to a greater understanding of its own divinity." So, and I do like that she says that the trailing finality. So we are coming to the end of this stage of growth that we've been in, and into the next. So then she says, next paragraph, "And you are now at the conclusion of the time period wherein humanity was disturbing itself from within itself." So this is what we are ending, this current state of consciousness where we have been, it's like that idea that disturbing itself from within itself is like we are learning by challenging each other and conflict between people. This is how we've been learning. So it's been in this whole situation of polarity and duality and all of that. That has been the intention for us through this whole stage of growth that we've been in. And she says, where humanity was finding itself through the process of struggle and strife, was moving against itself. And then she says, continuing to expand beyond the boundaries of what was known and what was settled. So I loved that last bit there because it explains the why. Like, why did we do that? Like, why did we be like, it'd be fun? Let's go to Earth and fight. Like, ugh. Like, let's go to Earth and be mean to one another and have bad things happen to us. Yay. Why? Like, why did we do that? And here she says why. She says it was continuing to expand beyond the boundaries of what was known and what was settled. So it was like we had to do that to open our minds and expand our potential. So it's that idea that, as we know, like humanity at this point, as a general rule, we are comfort seeking creatures, right? We don't like to do things that are uncomfortable. And it's me, at least. I don't know about you guys, but you're like, yeah, I love those of you that are really into camping. maybe there's two breeds of humans, the campers and the non-campers, those of us that go glamping and those of us that go camping. But but the point being is that we don't tend to change much if we're left to our own devices. And so we put ourselves in this process of conflict where we were forced to change because other people were bumping up against us and pushing us. And sometimes that pushing would be really constructive and help us to open our minds and see things in ways we never saw before. So imagine, if you are, hundreds of years ago and you live in a tiny village and everyone looks like you and you have a very defined culture and very few new things ever come to the surface, and then all of a sudden there comes some travelers walking through town and they're from somewhere totally different and they really challenge you, right? Because you think, wow, that they have weird habits and they have weird clothes, and like, are they are they safe even? And imagine how that would have been. We would have been in that time period so not accustomed to change that even the smallest differences would have caused people to be suspicious and uncomfortable. And so through this process of increasingly becoming like the pace of challenge, the pace of conflict, now that we are all connected in the world, electronically, that we can talk all around the world, that we are exposed to one another's differences on such a regular and minute basis. If you go on any social media and you can look right into people's lives all over the world and see how different they are and the weird things they eat and the strange ideas they have, you can see it all. So we are exposed to each other in a way that might push us, that creates conflict internally, that makes us question, should I change? Oh, wow, that's an interesting way of solving a problem. Should I do it that way? We open our minds and expand our potential. So this is why we've been doing it. And I think it really helps to know the why, because otherwise it's like, yeah, it doesn't sound fun, but in fact, we have grown, that we have become, humanity has become way more flexible than we ever were before, way more open-minded. And that means expanded. We are expanded. We've expanded our potential. All right. And our willingness to see new things and see things in a new way. And that's really a necessary thing. Like, being able to see things in a new way is necessary for us to be able to recognize the new shift of consciousness. All right, next paragraph. She says, it has been a trial. It has been disconcerting. There have been many epochs within the knowledge that you have about yourselves, where powers were overturned, where people succumbed to great disaster, where there were many injurious happenings. And you are now in the process of coming to a space and connectivity wherein the self that you are, as you have grown individually, yes, and as a collective, is ready to discard that way of life. Woohoo! Yes. Yeah. And getting rid of, right? Like, yes, if we can grow without all that, without disaster and without injury and without, all of that, yes, please, if we have a better way of growth, a way that's a little more gentle on us, that certainly I think we're ready for it. And then she says that humanity is ready to come into a stable sensation of harmonious interplay with one another and with yourselves. And this is a great change. So this is really the discussion of what new reality is going to be like, right? Much more stable in terms of not so much chaos in the world around us, more harmony between ourselves and within ourselves. Right? So we're going to be learning in a new way, not the way that we have been. And then I highlighted this whole next section. She says, the tailing end that you are experiencing now of old ways, of old lies and truths, which must interrupt one another and be digested. This is a time wherein you shall find yourselves thrown against the rocks of your understanding, as if you are being washed to the shore, desperate for your own security. Wow. Is that not a powerful paragraph, you guys? The old ways, lies, and truths must interrupt one another. So we certainly see that happening in our world right now, where things that were hidden or were accepted, that were brushed under the carpet, right? The truths are coming to the surface and interrupting that. And then now we have to digest it. And that is, like I said, a mouthful. And then she says, this is a time wherein you shall find yourselves thrown against the rocks of understanding. And that's, I think, is a really compassionate description of what it can be like when things come forward that are just very, very hard for us to process and to accept, right? It feels like to understand it, we have to accept that it is painful, right? The rocks of understanding are thrown against the rocks. And then she says, as if you are being washed to the shore, desperate for your own security. And I think even that feeling, right, that we're grasping at, like that whole question we were talking about before about how, like, what is humanity? Like, who are we in all of this, in this crazy sea of chaos? And I would say the answer to that is, it's not who are we, it's who are we becoming? Like, we are leaving that behind. That's why it's coming to the surface. That's why all this is happening right now, is because we are leaving it behind. And it needs to surface so we can heal it and let it go. We have to acknowledge the pain, and so we can move through it and move past it. Yeah. But it can leave us feeling a little desperate for our security, right? As she says, desperate for your security. Next paragraph, she said, there shall be times wherein you feel yourselves again on trial, but you are not. And have this in your understanding. You are not at the edge of something. You are not at the ending. You are the founders of a new beginning. You are the openers of doors. You are the consecrators of a higher state of consciousness. You are the ones who will lead. So here I think this starts to get really exciting. But she's saying that, so there might be things coming. We are still in the process of things rising up to fall down. Like, we're still in the process of things churning and changing, and there's still chaos in the world. But she says and that can lead you to think, like, well, where are we in this process? It's like Abel was saying earlier, like, I hope this happens in my lifetime. But yes, I think it's happening. I think it's happening right now. But we can't always know, because we look out in the world and we see nutty things going on. But she says there might be times where we feel like we're still in the thick of it. But she says, but you are not. You're not in the thick of it, right? She says, have this understanding. You are not at the edge of something. You are not at the ending. You are the founders of the new beginning. She's saying the new beginning is already starting inside of us. You are the openers of doors. You are the consecrators of a higher state of consciousness. You are the ones who will lead. Next paragraph, she says, and others will follow. And this is true. It does not beget within them any sense of being lesser or being unknown to themselves at the deepest layer. It simply means that you must pass through the door one at a time, and someone must go first. It's really funny. And you yourselves have been in the offering. So, and I love this as like the understanding. It is a big deal to be here and doing this work now, because and being drawn to this work right now, like, this would have been like why we came. There's some of us who came in what I call the before team and the after team, right? It's two teams. And some of us are decided we were going to be in the before team. And so we were going to wake up early, wake up beforehand, and we were going to go through our healing, and we were going to be the ones that were going to try to hold the light. And this holding the light thing really matters. Like, my understanding now from what Isla's been telling us is, we've been talking about the flash of light, which is this big event that's going to come, a solar event that comes, and I don't know if it's from our sun or the Grand Central Sun. I think it's from the Grand Central Sun. I don't know, but it's a solar event that comes that will bring such an enormous amount of light to the planet that it is. The angel said it was the moment we would look back on and say that everything changed. That it will be a significant period during which a lot of people will make the shift into the higher state of consciousness. It'll be the moment where we sort of set down our karma and move through and change. But it's not everybody at the same moment. That some people will go through in that moment, and then they will turn around and help the others. And so how does that helping happen? Super interesting. And the people who are going to go over the easiest are the ones that are looking for it, the ones that are already accustomed, have already been working on their healing, like that are aware and self-aware and ready for this change. They're going to be, and so that's the before team, right? That's all of you guys, because you're here, you're listening to this stuff, you're into this, like this is you. So we will move to the other side. And then how do we change? How do we then share that light? It's exactly that, is that the light, I used to wonder, like, how does this light stay on the planet? How is it that opportunity can stay for people for the remainder of their lives? And I didn't understand that. I thought, well, maybe the light comes in, it like just like gets trapped here, it just like circulates around. And then no, Isla explained it recently, and she said, no, the light will now be within you. And that's the difference, that there will be an influx of light that comes in, and then we become that light, that we take it in, and we now are able to radiate that light once we go through this process. And then so the light stays on the planet, but it doesn't just stay in the atmosphere, it stays inside of people, which I think is the coolest thing. So Lightworker is literal, you guys. It's a literal thing. And so, yeah, so that's how down the road, like what does the after team do? That, like the after team does that. And so you carry the light, and you share that light with anybody who's receptive, who wants it. Yeah, amazing, right? Totally amazing. And so it's like, how do you do that? It's like coherence. It's like where the harmony that comes inside of you, it's like all of you becomes balanced, and all of you becomes like you are singing one note. Your whole body is singing one note. And it's like a really lovely pitch. So if you can imagine, like if you've ever been to like a big stadium where there's like a game playing and everybody starts clapping, and they're clapping and everybody's clapping at different, and they're all over the place clapping at different times. And then slowly everybody comes together, right? And everyone is clapping at the same time, or humming, right? If you've ever been like, in a group where people are singing and people are like all over the place and singing it. And then slowly people start to find like one tone that they're at. And then it's like, and everyone's together, and that's this power where it's like things come together around the, like sort of the strongest note. Who's ever got the strongest note, then everybody comes to that and starts to sing that note. And so they become like, the group becomes coherent, cohesive, inside of that note. And that's how I see this working, is that you will carry this harmony inside of you, and then other people who are discordant and all over the place, all of a sudden their inner song starts to organize itself, because yours kind of provides that initial tone, that pitch or tone that they can organize around, that they can then become more organized inside of themselves. And yeah, so it's very, very interesting and exciting, very exciting. Okay. So, yeah. And you can be on both teams, by the way. You can be on the before team and the after team. So, but some people are on the after team, and they choose that. They would choose that because they know that if they can wait a little while, they can squeeze a little bit more out of the karmic system to expand their soul. And so that would be the reason why a light worker might come and say, I'm going to be after team so that I can stay in the karmic construct just a little extra time to get a little bit more deepening of my soul, which is just, and that doesn't say anything about, is that person an older soul or a younger soul? Has no impact on that. It's just purely what their soul chose that they thought would be the best for them in that moment. So, okay. So then, and then she says, you are coming forward to be chosen. She says, you are coming forward to be chosen, to be allowed. And it is not this. It is not a transgressive act for which you must be given permission. It is simply in the allowing that occurs within yourself, within your heart space. It is simply in the easing of your reluctance to be. And this is a choice that you are making individually. So this paragraph, and she said the first part here where she says, you're coming forward to be chosen, to be allowed, and it is not this. So there's a part of us, I think, sometimes that is looking for external proof or permission to move through the shift of consciousness, like looking outside of us to say, like to get a report card, like, have I made it? Am I doing enough? Am I doing it right? Like, am I one of the chosen ones, or am I not one of the chosen ones? And she's saying the person who's doing the choosing is you. Like, do you choose? There's not an external person, even there's not an angel, there's not even God, there's nobody outside that's looking and saying, I pick you, you're on the team and you're not. Like, it is only us. Like, we get to do the choosing. And I think it's really thinking about it this way, that it is the allowing that occurs within yourself, within your heart space, and it is simply in the easing of your reluctance to be. And this is the choice that you are making individually. So it brings to mind to me, like, what does it mean to be a leader? And that is, light workers, you are leaders. You are leaders, not in the way that you might think of as like a CEO of a big company or something like that, but a leader in the truest sense, which means you are stepping out into the unknown and being willing to take the first step, and letting other people learn from that step that you took, and learn from what you learned, right? What you learned, where you failed, where you fell down, where you stayed standing, and they follow your safe footsteps. And so in this process of moving, those of you that are here, that are on board, that are excited for this shift, like, humanity hasn't done this before. And so a lot of it is like, we got to bump into a few walls, and we got to figure out how to do it. And we got to live. The biggest thing is live in the uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and there is no external, especially in this circumstance, like she's saying here, there's no external body, external being that's going to tell us how to do it. That it is very much an internal process that we have to go through, which is really, that's where the leadership is required. It means being willing to be with that uncertainty, with the unknown, and just trust yourself and to try. And that's really, we just have to keep, and she said it in one of our past messages. It was so beautiful. It was that idea that we just have to make the choice to keep on living. We just have to keep trying and keep on going and keep doing. And that's it. Right. And so it is this idea that we don't slow down because we don't have the answers, that we understand that the job is to not have the answers and to learn by trying. And so to redefine that in our own hearts about what the role that we are being called to, those of you on the before team, the role that we're being called to is to be in that uncertainty and to be okay with it. And to recognize that's the journey, right? That is the journey we are on, and that it'll be revealed to us as we go. And then, yes, we can try to figure it out along the way and then share that. And that's part of the journey too. Yeah. So, all right, next paragraph. She says, you are receiving in these times that are now, in these great and violent times that you are in, you are receiving essence upon essence, solar intrusions coming to the earth, energies that are transparent and yet vibrant, that resonate within your bodies, that are of assistance. They are moving you gradually, easing you into a higher relationship with this opportunity that is before you now. And you are accepting of these as you are feeling yourselves increasingly more open to one another and to yourselves. So these are, like, in other words, that there has been, and you guys know this, there's been a massive increase in the last many years. We're, I think, solar maximum right now. Or at least around it anyways, but lots of energy coming to the planet, but still not yet the flash of light, which is my understanding from the angels. They're not big on timing, but they sometimes give us windows or ideas based on cycles. Usually, if they're going to do it, it's usually going to be based on lunar cycles or annual cycles or stuff like that, if they're going to give us a hint. But they did before talk about kind of a sequence of events, and the flash of light was sort of after a lot of the other events that they talked about. So it's still in the future. Next paragraph, she says, okay, so then she kind of switches topics here, and she started to talk about, like, don't get lulled into, like, how do we deal with the fact that there's all this bad news out there? And she says, do not follow the pathway of this violence that rises around yourselves, that you are observing, that you are seeing, that you are hearing about. Do not follow the path of becoming angry. Do not follow the path of becoming reluctant to engage in this earth, or finding yourself drawn into interrelationship with that which is happening. And I like that she kind of mentions the two responses that we typically have. It's sort of going to be like fight or flight. Like, what do we do when we're starting to hear things that really upset us? We're going to either try to tune it out and ignore it, right? Or and by ignoring it, it means like pulling out, like I'm just not going to face Earth. I'm just going to crawl inside a cave and pretend that nobody else exists. And she says, don't do that. Don't do that. And don't feel like you need to get drawn into the fight. Both. So And she says, don't follow the path of becoming angry. And then she says, instead, here's what we can do. She says, be and observe and watch as things fall, for fall they will. See how the undertow pulls gently at their feet already. It cannot sustain itself when the light is so strong from within you. It cannot continue on as it has been. And the violence of this earthly realm must spend itself out. And I see this as a big reassurance that change is here, that we are right now in the experience of seeing change in our world. And so she's like, watch that. Notice the change. And the reason I think we want to watch that is because out of the ashes rises the phoenix, that we want to be watching and noticing the change and being looking for what beautiful new things are going to grow out of it. And then she says, the next paragraph, the interplay in this dynamic was and has been settled by those with whom it is occurring. Fear not for their justice. Fear not for the action that you must take. And so this is that idea that the stuff that's going on right now was all part of like an agreed upon plan, right? By those people who are a part of it. And even like I remember a long time ago, the angels talked about the stuff going on in the US and in the world right now, like the economic uncertainty of the world. And the angels said that the primary players who are in those roles are going to be most impacted are actually went through this together in a previous life, and where they chose their own like to protect themselves rather than to take care of the average person, and that this is a chance where they could choose differently. So they're having do-overs, just like we all do. We get do-overs where we get to try out that same experience we went through and see how we can behave this time. Can we do it differently? Can we make a different choice? And so she's saying, like, trust in the perfection of all things. And she's like, don't worry, it's going to work its way out. She says, fear not for their justice, fear not for the action that you must take. For there is none beyond that which moves you to feel more deeply your own truth, your divinity, the light you carry. This must be reflected in this time that you are in, out into the world and its disturbances, to feel most deeply the calm within. So she's laying it out very clearly. This is our job. Like as light workers, what can we do when we start to see the world go bonkers? This is what we're meant to do, right? Is that we do, she says, what do you need to do? Nothing beyond this, which is to feel more deeply your own truth. What does that mean? People are like, what is that? People always say, find your truth, be your truth. It is that idea that there's no part of yourself that is denied, right? So the like when we are not being true to ourselves, it means that there's parts of us, parts of our experience. And that's an easy way to think about it, is there anything in your life you've ever been through that you wish you hadn't gone through? Anything you wish you hadn't said? Anything you wish you hadn't experienced or felt? And is there any part of the memory that you, anytime it comes up, you try to shudder it away and you try to forget about it because it hurts, or you just don't know how to process it? That is denying your truth. That's what we're talking about here. And the thing that we're trying to do through healing is to scoop up all those parts. And we all have them, you guys. We all have them. To scoop up those parts and to bring those back into our heart, to love it into wholeness. And it helps to process and free up the emotions. Like we keep the experiences, the learning that came from it, and we free the emotions. And those emotions, if they're trapped in there, emotions are not meant to be trapped in the body. And it can create disease. It can make you, all kinds of terrible stuff happens in the body because we trap emotions there. It needs to move through us. And so that's what she's saying here, is all our task as light workers is to feel more deeply our truth, right? And then she calls it your truth, your divinity, the light you carry. The reason she says that is that the more we recognize our truth, the more we accept all of ourselves, the less resistance we have in our bodies. All that resistance does is it blocks the light that we are a channel for our own light, our divine source light that flows through us. When we are in resistance to part of ourselves, it's like that's a tube, that flow of light is coming through a tube, and we are blocking that tube of light with all this resistance, saying, okay, light, come through, but not over here and not over here. Just only come through this little tiny passageway, because that's all this other stuff. I don't want to think about it. So that's what she's talking about here. That is our task, right? To reflect as much of ourselves as we possibly can. And that does not mean we have to be perfect. It just means we have to not be in judgment of ourselves. We have to see ourselves as imperfect and recognize that life is a learning experience. See, this must be reflected. This truth, your light must be reflected in this time that you are in, out into the world and its disturbances, to feel most deeply the calm within. And why is that so important? Yes, it is light, but the bigger thing is that the more of you that you accept, what you are radiating is acceptance. What you are radiating is love. If you're loving yourself, you're then radiating that love, and that changes the world. And it's, you hear that in songs and stuff, but it's real. It's actually real. And so it is that idea that if we are fighting ourselves from within, then that perpetuates fighting outside in the world. If we are accepting and loving all parts of ourselves within, then we are radiating out acceptance of love. So this is why for the light worker, the number one job is to try to flow as much of your light as you possibly can by coming into better and better harmony within yourself, and then being that light and being out in the world with that light flowing through you. And it's not all or nothing. Every little bit that you become, every moment of clarity, every bit of healing that you do, it's all cumulative. It all adds up so that more and more of your light comes through. But you don't have to be perfect to be of service. It's literally come as you are, do your best, and that's all that's required. It's all going to be an improvement. It's all going to help. And then she says, how do you achieve calm when the world feels like poison? How do you anchor yourself into the depth of your own fruition when what is happening in the world feels like an upset? And I would say to the self that your own inner harmony comes from a place that is not outside, it is internal. And she goes on to say, shut down that dialogue that you are having with what requires you to be angry. Isn't that interesting? What requires you to be angry? It makes me think about how in the press, and gosh, if you look at thumbnails on YouTube these days, it is just looking at thumbnails can bum you out. They're all like, it's terrible. And I gotta say it, there's a ton of AI videos out there right now, and they all follow the same script. And it's weird. It's like different words, same script, exact. And they'll go through this thing like no one else knows, and this will change everything. And and everything is like super designed to freak you out. It's like designed to make you think, oh, if I don't listen, I will not have the information I need. And then it's scary. It's all scary. And so it's like, I think, especially now, becoming conscious of that, of anything that's requiring us to be angry, requiring us, that's attempting to manipulate us through emotions to try to get that response, to get attention, because if we just keep saying, you know what, you're going to be fine, because you will, right? How do you achieve calm when the world feels like poison? Where am I? Oh no, I'm down here. Sorry. Let yourself, here she says, shut down that dialogue that you are having with what requires you to be angry. Let yourself find peace. It lingers always just behind your eyes. Within the self, it is always there. And then she says, you can meet me there, for I am with you, and I will be always at your side as you require, as will angelic beings and all those that are part of your supportive path. And so it's go within, watch out for sensationalism. Don't engage in sensationalistic things, and try to go within and recognize that you can always, you can always peace out. I do my little meditation. I have a elliptical right over there. And every morning I get on there, and I usually put on some kind of like floaty angelic music, and I just go within and I meditate. And it is amazing how restorative it is. It's almost like just bringing me back to myself, and I think of it as that, it's like I just get really clear on my own vibration, and I try to sort out anything that's in there that doesn't feel coherent or aligned with that's when I go in, that space inside of me that feels really pure and open and flowing. And I just try to really focus on let that grow, in that time period. And it's restful. So it's like it feels really restorative to do that. And it's inside of us, all of us. We all have that. And you can tap into it anytime. And then she goes on, next paragraph. She says, I would say that in your processing of emotion and emotionality, find that which anchors you to the self and the self alone. And so this is here she's going into what do we do if we are experiencing a lot of triggers, if we are dealing with a lot of emotion right now, which it's going to happen, you guys. So here's what she suggests. She says, find that which anchors you to the self and the self alone. Assume that all that passes externally that brings you to your knees is in fact drawing forward from within you that which must be seen. So in other words, the only reason something is going to really hurt, if you're looking out in the world, if it really upsets you, recognize it's because it is resonating with something inside of you. That there's some experience you have had that is now that this reminds you of on some level. And it could be anything. It could be anything. And so if you feel triggered, which means is it keeping you up at night? Does it make you cry? Does it make you angry? Right? And not everything does. And there's a ton of things going on in the world. And you could look at all those headlines and there may be just one of these subjects that are happening out here right now, these areas of trauma that really gets you. And which one is it? And why? And how do the players in that, or the circumstance, if you just describe to someone, then this is, I think, a great way to figure out what it is. Tell somebody what bugs you about the thing that's happening, or write it down on writing it down as genius. So just get a journal or a piece of paper, even if you're not a journaler, and just write it down. What about that thing in the world really bothers you? And write as much as you can. And then when you get to the end of it, imagine that everything that you're saying is about and look at the words that you're talking about and say, how does that actually reflect what happened in my life? Usually related to mom or dad, usually between birth and age 7. So take a look at it from that perspective. Which parts of this are mom? Which parts of this are dad? And that doesn't mean your mom and dad weren't awesome, because they probably, you can have you can come into a family where mom was amazing June Cleaver and dad was amazing whatever Robin Williams. I just try to pull a name out, someone nice and sweet. and at the same time, you're going to get wounded, because that's the goal. The goal is for them to leave a wound, to leave a mark of some kind. So even if you're my childhood was perfect, there'll be something there, I promise you. I used to say my childhood was perfect. Now I know it wasn't. I know it really wasn't. And that doesn't, there's no judgment about that on my parents, but it just says we will get the wounding that we need. We will get the wounding that will transform us. And so if you are finding yourself triggered, try this. Do the thing, write it out. Write out what bothers you. Look into that with as objectively as you possibly can, and say, how does this dynamic, the thing that bothers me the most, where did I experience that in my life? In personally, on a personal level. And that'll show you where to go. That'll show you why this is bothering you so much. It's really powerful, you guys. It's really powerful. So she says, she says, it is in fact drawing forward from within you that which must be seen. There are harms that were done to your very soul, to the self that you are, that must be loved into wholeness. And in this presence-full time that you are participating in, this is the work to be done, right? This is what we must be doing now as light workers. Next paragraph, she says, be in no hurry for this anchoring and this processing. Feel not that you must pass quickly through this digestion of what is inside you. Be at peace with who you are, what you are, knowing that your timing is in the perfection of all things, that you are accessing the depth of your soul exactly as you are meant to. And this, I think, is really to help us in the places where some of you are going to be those I got to do this yesterday, I got to hurry up, and we want to get things, even in spirituality, you can be a type A. And she's saying, don't judge yourself. Whatever is happening, it sometimes takes time. Actually healing some of these really deep issues actually takes a ton of energy. You sometimes have to free up energy in order to go through the healing. And so trying to rush it or move through it too quickly can be not as good for you. You actually need to give yourself time to kind of digest, just like you can't, eat your whole refrigerator in one sitting. You got to do it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And so, she's like, don't hurry, just trust. As long as you're working on yourself, that's the only thing, then trust your journey and know that it'll come in the right timing. And then she says, next paragraph, know that you are coming into a heightened state of your own awareness. And as this ease with yourself develops, you'll find increasingly your reluctance to be your truth fades, and the light that you are becomes increasingly visible. And this will be a joy for you increasingly. Love that. There is no time like the present, where all things are disturbed, where the world is digesting more and more of its own agonies to process your own. and to live your life in greater and greater peace because of it. So why would that be? Why is there no time like now? Because there are so many opportunities to be triggered, right? The world is so chaotic. What that means is there's a ton of energy moving. So it's easier. It's easier to find yourself reflected out in the world and to hit on those things that are sometimes really hard to bring forward. Because that is the thing. The more work you do on yourself, the harder it is to find your wounds, because they're deep. They're the low hanging fruit are the ones you get first. And then as you go through life, you're like, where are those wounds? It gets hard to find them. So a time like this can be really helpful, because it'll hit. If there's something in there, it'll hit. Next paragraph, she says, you are always held in friendship with this world, even when it seems to lose itself. Beautiful. And I think that is such a gentle and compassionate phrase, because I think it can sometimes feel, as we're looking at what's going on in the world, we can feel like the world is against us. It can feel like the world is just, how can anybody survive in this world? How can anybody make a way for themselves when it just feels like the cards are stacked against you? And she says it's not that. She says you are always held in friendship with this. Well, there's always space for you. There's always a place for you to create a beautiful life for yourself, right? She says even when it seems to lose itself, right? You are still within the wholeness of a humanity that will ascend, that will divine for itself a new way of living in harmony. Take hope. It is not far now, and you are a guide for the rest. And then she says, she blesses us, says thank you and goodbye. Oh, yes. I love it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for sharing this message together. I think it's a beautiful one. I'm really inspired as I think about how is it that we cope with some of the challenges and the chaos that's happening in our world right now. And I love this guidance that she's given us. I feel like it's just so timely and so meaningful. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your weekend. Sending you tons of love, and I'll see you guys next Friday live. Bye, you guys.